2, 3, 4. Dos, tres, cuatro. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Masters of Ceremonies, Mr. Ernesto Aglipay and Dr. Charito Rojas. How about a big hand?
The United States Ilocano National Association Incorporated is an organization composed of 18 provinces of the northern and central Philippines inhabited by Ilocanos. And to aptly greet everyone who is here tonight, may I welcome you all in a language understood by everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In a language we all should speak, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. In a language common to the three beauties, masantos, yalabi, at sikayo namin. In one of the languages of US Aina, maayap a bengi, kekongan. And the language of the association, na imbag nga rabii kada kayo amin. To all, welcome to the Grand Coronation Night, Banquet and Ball for this year's first Miss Ilocandia 2014-2016. I am Charito Rojas of Malasiki, Pangasinan, and I am one of your masters of ceremonies for this evening. With me is one of the most respected members of the US Aina, he being one of the incorporators of the association. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow MC, Kuya Ernie Aglipay.
Thank you, Chat. Distinguished guest. Mga kababayan, impatpatig ko na'y nga kakailyak nga taga Ilocandia. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Yes, my name is Ernesto Aglipay. I am one of those who organized this association in 1989. In 1990, we give birth to this wonderful association in the name of Ilocano National Association of United States of America. It's been 21 years ago that I attended this kind of festivities because I opted to stay in the Philippines. Some of the incorporators, as well as those executive officers of this wonderful organization, had passed away. And I believe there are 14 of us, and 6 already died. It's only 6 of us, and I salute and always have my bow to my very good friend and consider the brother to me no other than Mr. Victorino Vic Hermoso. Manong Bikinay, Manong Vic and I decided to organize this one with the help of the late Lindy Batara. And of course, Attorney Altipon, who I believe resided now in Honolulu, who is the first president of this organization because of our belief that this organization will be able to address the needs and values of being Ilocano to be able to compete with what they call Pilam Council during the time of Alex Exclamado. And up to now, ladies and gentlemen, there is still a rift between what they call Marcos and Aquino, and I hope that this group still belongs to what we believe in as a group. And thereby, we elected Mr. Vic Hermoso as the Ilocano National Association Political Action Committee President. And that's what we call the INAPAC. And the Pilam Council also made it as NAPTA. And that is the information for all of you, new faces in all the light. I want you to remember that this organization was gracefully inducted by the wife of Ambassador Danding Coangco, Gretchen Open Coangco, as our inductee in 1990, and the guest speaker is no other than the Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos. And so therefore, please allow me, my friend, it's a pleasant evening to you guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I personally commend the administration of my very good friend Alvin Padilla and the executive committee and officers, as well as Mrs. Elsie Gakusan, for being able to keep this organization intact. I could see my co-MC is very active, and so therefore I take my hat to you also. I'm not used to reading this one, but I will continue doing it. Indeed, not easy to put a maiden endeavor such as this. To bring it forth to the realization of a monumental and gargantuan job, the brains of this first Miss Ilocandia search. You did a fantabulous job. A big, big hand for them, please. Please clap your hand. And to formally open the evening, let us all welcome the Executive Chair for this Miss Ilocandia and INA Corresponding Secretary and my co-MC, Dr. Charito Rojas Wee, the President of the Malasaquinian of United States of America.
Thank you, Kuya Ernie. Again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am deeply humbled by the trust and confidence given to me to be the chair of this maiden project of Miss Ilocandia 2014. Being its first in the history of the U.S. INA Incorporated, it is setting the precedent for the next Miss Ilocandia search, and paving the way for the future search is not easy, but rather it is an exciting and ticklish experience. The Miss Ilocandia search was conceptualized to open the door of the youth's participation into the mainstream of the association. So tonight marks the welcoming of Miss Ilocandia by the Mrs. Ilocandias. Thus, meeting up shall become a historic event for the Association of 18 Provinces from the northern and central region of the Philippines. Since this is a very significant affair of the officers and members of the association, I would like that you, our ever-loyal friends, supporters, patrons, sponsors, and guests would witness such birth and merging of two generations. As any maiden project, the idea was met with skepticism, but because of the passionate energy and zealousness of the proponents, the project materialized to what it is tonight. It proved once more that there is unity in diversity. The lukewarm reception was changed into burning and fervent desire by everyone involved, making this first Miss Ilocandia a blast. My heartfelt thanks to the three equally beautiful ladies, Her Majesty the Queen, and Miss Ilocandia 2014, Cristel Pasalo, First Princess and Miss Namnama or Miss Hope, Cynthia Kate Victuelles, and Second Princess and Miss Liwliwa or Happiness, Victoria de Guzman. Your deep involvement and participation in this search blossomed a good friendship, sisterhood, and camaraderie among you, and that is worth applauding. Congratulations. Importantly, no words could suffice to express how grateful I am to the very supportive parents, families, relatives, and friends of Cristel, Kate, and Vicky, who all through the latest journey had stayed put with them. Kudos and hats off to all of you. To the first couple, Alvin, U.S. INA President, and his wife, Marita, my executive co-chair, a million thanks to both of you. And as always, you are the greatest and the best. To all our advertisers and well-wishers, thanks so much for your continued patronage. And of course, behind any successful undertaking, there are people to thank for the officers and members of the association, chairs and members of the different committees, my sister Achi Edna and her BFF Albert, my hubby Amor, and my friends Patty and Nelson. Thank you so much for those unspoken expression of your unending support. Lastly, to all, your presence tonight makes the affair even more special and indelible. Thank you, and please enjoy the night.
We now proceed to the next,
Where is the prayer?
the Parade of Flags. Leading the pack are Architect Amor Wee and Mrs. Alexos Bahog with the American flag, followed by Mr. Vic Abriam and Mrs. Remy Abriam with the Philippine flag. Followed by the Parade of Provinces. The U.S. INA Incorporated banner is carried by Mr. Vic Barba and Mrs. Amor Barba, followed by the provinces. For the province of Abra, let's welcome Mr. Dennis Burillo and Mrs. Elsa Macariola. For the province of Batanes, Mr. Ed Domingo and Mrs. Andrea Edgeworth. For the province of Benguet, Mr. Albert Gorospe and Mrs. Susan Pacifico. For the province of Ilocos Norte, Mr. Dante Esta and Mrs. Elizabeth Esta. For my province of Ilocos, Mr. Constantino Galimba
Yay!
and Mrs. Lolita Galimba. For the province of La Union, Mr. Fred Almiron and Miss Beth Taylor. For the province of Nueva Ecija, Mr. Lito Ramos and Estrelita Ramos. For the province of Nueva Vizcaya, let's welcome Mr. Rudy Ancheta and Mrs. Grace Ancheta. For the province of our loving president, province of Pangasinan, let's welcome the Mr. Nelson Rabago and my friend Patty Bar. For the province of Tarlac, the lovely Mrs. Ilocandia of 2013,
13.
her hobby. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yes.
For the province of Quirino, Mr. Arsenio Arcilia and Mrs. Alicia Galicia. For Zambales, Mr. Tony Bragado and Mrs. Grace Garrido.
Cagayan. Province of Cagayan.
For the province of Cagayan, let's welcome the lovely lady and the gentleman.
Yeah, sa Ilocos Norte.
For the province of Zambales, the official logo of the governor. Let's welcome our friends. Let us welcome Mr. Vic Barba and Mrs. Amor Barba for representing the banner of this wonderful organization, US INA. Mr. Barba. Representing the Republic of the Philippines, please welcome wonderful
Mr. and Mrs. Abriam. Mr. Vic
Mr.
Abriam
Vic Abriam and
and
Mrs. Remy Abriam. I'm sorry. For the American flag, let's welcome Architect Amor Wee and Mrs. Alexis Bajo. Friends, now you see the 18 banners representing the 18 provinces comprising the U.S. INA Incorporated. Chat, aren't you proud to be belonging to one of these provinces?
Of course, I am, Kuya Ernie. Actually, I'm from Pangasinan. The 18 provinces only show that the Ilocanos, full-blooded or hybrid, are everywhere. For your information, correct me if I'm wrong, Kuya Ernie, but 6 of our former and present presidents comes from the Ilocano region. We have Ramon Magsaysay of Zambales, Ferdinand Marcos and Elpidio Quirino of the Ilocos region, Fidel Ramos of Pangasinan, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo blending of Pangasinan and Pampanga, the Aquinos, Corazon Aquino, and present President the son, Noynoy Aquino. Thank you so much. One of the most solemn and ceremonious parts of the program is the candle lighting, and to read to us the significance of or symbolism of the ceremony is the Executive Vice President, Mrs. Ofelia Esta.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends. A date to remember by anyone of Ilocano ethnicity should be May 30th, 1990. This was when our founders, Mr. Ernie Aglipay, the late Mr. Lindy Batara, Mr. Eusebio Domingo, the late Mr. Dean Fangonilio, and our ever-active, understanding, and always looking for ways to better keep the Ilocanos united, Mr. Vic Hermoso. As these leaders brainstormed, they came up with the idea of holding a Mrs. Ilocandia Queen contest. It was during the coming of like minds that the candle lighting ceremony had its inception when the USINA held its first Mrs. Ilocandia coronation pageant and extravaganza in 1993. The candle lighting has been an important aspect of the pageant. This ceremony is significant because it not only lights the pathway for the Queen and her royal court, but is also the guiding light for the officers and members of the USINA Incorporated. The large mother candle will be lit by our vivacious founder, Mr. Vic Hermoso, accompanied by his beautiful wife, Mrs. Carmen Hermoso. The other slightly smaller candles will be lit by our former queens and princesses representing the 18 predominantly Ilocano-speaking provinces. They are Mrs. Gloria Bautista, our first Mrs. Ilocandia, 1993-1994, Mrs. Eva Kalilan, Mrs. Ilocandia, 1996-97, Mrs. Remy Abriam, Mrs. Namnama, 1996-1997, Mrs. Rebecca Ambrosio, Mrs. Ilocandia, 1998-1999, Mrs. Lita Rigor, Mrs. Namnama, 2000-2001, Mrs. Jeannie Pasqua, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2001-2002. Mrs. Cynthia Borillo, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2004-2005. Mrs. Shirley Soriano, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2005-2006. Mrs. Teresita Gorospe, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2006-2007. Mrs. Caridad de la Cuesta, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2007-2008. Mrs. Alexis Bahog, Mrs. Rangay, 2008-2009. Mrs. Nati Padua, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2010-2011. Mrs. Marilu Ancheta, Mrs. Namnama, 2010-2011. Mrs. Estrella Ramos, Mrs. Liliwa, 2013-2015. Mrs. Maybell Angeles, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2013-2015. Mrs. Evelyn Nielsen, Mrs. Namnama, 2013-2015. Mrs. Loida Marsan, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2013-2015. Although the large mother candle by itself gives light, it is only when all the other candles have been lit that the room becomes brighter.
Sally.
We are now better able to
Right.
see our way, not needing to grope about in uncertainty. In the book of Matthew 5, verses 14 to 16, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp or a candle and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, you, the USINA Incorporated, should let your light shine before your fellow men, that they may see your good deeds and admire the Ilocano culture and heritage." So, fellow Ilocanos, let's keep the light shining and leave the lights on for our posterity.
The mother candle was lit by the founder and president emeritus, Mr. Vic Hermoso and Mrs. Carmen Hermoso, followed by Miss Gloria Bautista, Mrs. Ilocandia, 1993. Then Mrs. Rebecca Ambrosio, Mrs. Eva Calilan, Mrs. Ilocandia, 1996. Mrs. Remedios Abriam, Mrs. Namnaman, 1996. Miss Rebecca Ambrosio, Mrs. Ilocandia, 1998. Mrs. Lita Rigor, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2000. Miss Jenny Pasqua, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2001. Miss Cynthia Borillo, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2004. Miss Shirley Soriano, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2005. Miss Teresita Gorospe, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2006. Mrs. Caridad de la Cuesta, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2007. Mrs. Alexis Bahog, Mrs. Rangay, 2008. Mrs. Nati Padua, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2010. Mrs. Estrella Ramos, Mrs. Rangay, 2010. Mrs. Marilu Ancheta, Mrs. Namnama, 2010. Mrs. Leonie Domingo, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2011. Mrs. Evelyn Nielsen, Mrs. Namnama, 2013. And we have the reigning Mrs. Loida Marsan, Mrs. Ilocandia, 2013. There you have it, ladies, the 18 candles for our candle lighting ceremonies. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. 21 years ago that I haven't attended this one, but this is the very first time that I've seen these beauties. They did not grow old. They're getting younger. And once again, let's give them a round of applause. That was a nice ceremony,
Okay, thank you so much.
but was even made nicer because the ladies are all beauty titles. Coming up next is the singing of the national anthem with Miss Camille Abadicio, news correspondent of TV5, commercial model, and a singer leading.
Let us all stand for the national anthems, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw. May dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niyang kailan pamay di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwal, hatid pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng pag may mang-aapi, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Okay, to give us the invocation is the Executive Vice President, Mrs. Esta.
May I request, Madam Vice President, to somehow include into your prayer the brainers of this organization that already passed away, like the Honorable Lindy Batara, Art Padua, Dean Pangunilo, Tony Castro, Dib Baqueran, and Attorney and ex-Congressman Nemesio Ganan Jr.
Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer before we proceed with our dinner, please. Our Father in heaven, we give thanks for the pleasure of gathering together for this occasion to celebrate the U.S. Ilocano National Association's crowning of Miss Crystal Pasalo and her royal court. We give thanks for life and the freedom to enjoy it. We pray for health, strength, and peace to carry on the mission and visit on of the USINA. We give thanks for this food that you have provided for us, and bless each and every person here. This we ask in the name of Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Mr. Victorino Vic Hermoso. Manong Vic.
Thank you, Ernie, for your introduction about me. But do I deserve it?
Yeah.
That's a big question. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to welcome again each and every one of you in tonight's affair. I know without your support and cooperation to this dynamic organization, this organization have not exist for more than 24 years. Next year will be our silver anniversary. Hopefully that the grace of the Lord will continue give us the shower of blessing to maintain our camaraderie like brothers and sisters as an organization. But above all, I would like to congratulate the incoming Royal Court, especially their parents who give their wholehearted support to their daughter to seek the coveted title of First Ilocandia. I would like to recognize first the father or the parents and the family of Her Royal Majesty incoming First Crystal the First. I would like to introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. Engineer Rodrigo Pasolo of Pasarubio, Pangasinan, and the three daughters. And also the parents of the first princess, Miss Namnama, Mr. Rome, and Mrs. Victuelles. And also the parents of Miss Victoria de Guzman, the second princess, which unfortunately, and I apologize that I was not able to meet them personally. That's why I don't know their parents. So would you kindly stand up honorably, please, being the parents of the second princess of Miss de Guzman. We would like to acknowledge you. Thank you very much. Now we would like to acknowledge also the presence of the Honorable Vice Consul Rachel Orance from the Philippine Consulate General of San Francisco. And also Dr. Joaquin Gonzalez Jr., Professor, Golden Gate University of San Francisco and University of San Francisco. Professor J. Gonzalez. And also Ms. Regine de Guzman, Associate Director of Financial Aid, University of San Francisco. A student who wish to go to University of San Francisco and need financial help, approach Ms. de Guzman. It is ours. She is from Pangasinan also. And she is a director of Santa Barbara Association of Pangasinan. And also, the Operation Management Director, Ms. Edwina Aniag. Please stand up, please. Thank you, Winnie, and thank you for the nice publicity you made for our occasion tonight. And also, I would like to introduce also a practicing Ilocano doctor from Cagayan, Dr. Fons Materom, family dentist practicing in Delhi City. And a young, beautiful lady who is from TV5 news correspondent, commercial model, and resort singer in Manila, Miss Camille Adivicio. Stand up, Camille. And the reigning queen of Miss Pangasinan, Miss Raven Mapanaw. Stand up, please. And the present reigning Mrs. Ilocandia, 2013 to 2015, Mrs. Loida Marsan. And we would like also to recognize, which I believe is going to be our bridge in organizing back Southern California U.S. Ilocano National Association, which we are very grateful, the presence of Mr. Richard Gallardo, President of the Candonian of Southern California. Richard? And also the chairman of the Board of Directors of the United Pangasinais of America, Mr. Mario Panuringan. And the president of the Sarat Association of Northern California, Mr. Sosimo de la Cuesta. And of course, the president of the Men's Club of Grace United Methodist Church in San Francisco, Mr. Ernie Rosario. Stand up, Ernie. And also the president of the Ilocos Norteñan Association of Northern California, Mrs. Leti Palpalatok. And also the president of the Filipino community, Watsonville, Mr. Real Reyes. And also our dynamic contact from Watsonville, Santa Cruz area. I would like to request also and present to you Miss Lita Rigor. Now, before I go further, I would like to acknowledge the group of Vallejo people led by Miss Gloria Bautista. Well, the Vallejo people, please stand up. Thank you, folks. And now, here comes the president of the Pangasinan International Charitable Foundation, Madam Puri Soriben. The director and past president of the International Charitable Foundation, Incorporated, Mr. Bob Baldassar. And First Lady, I don't realize that we have First Lady. First Lady, Brenda Baldassar. Brenda. And one of the first founders, members of the founding organization of USINA, the president of the Abrenian, Mrs. Cynthia Borrero. And also the president of the San Carlinian Association of Northern California, Mr. Val de Guzman, and First Lady Salva. and also the past president of Pangasinan, Mrs. Senda Shore, and her husband, Joel. And also the president of the Dagupeñan Charitable Foundation, Mr. Rene Liamas, and First Lady Banji. And of course, the scouter of the Royal Club of San Francisco, the president, Mr. Gil Navarro, and First Lady, Madam Jet Biray. And of course, the Royal Queen for 1997 to 2013, Miss Claire Biray. And of course, also, the president of the Alician Isabela USA, Paul Tejada of San Jose. And of course, the king of the Royal Club, King Benipior Cosco. And the past president of the Sarat of California, Madam Caridad Aquino. And also the past president of the Candonian of Northern California, Mr. Jose Garrido. Can I please? And past President of United Pangasinanes of America, Mr. Fred Almiron and the First Lady Cynthia. And the past President of Bayambang Association of Northern California, Mr. Fred Junio, and his First Lady, Madam Betty Jr. And Madam Chonyo is also a senior Divino Tesoro Association of Northern California. Last but not the least, if you have some more lists to be announced, please submit it to us. The past President of United Pangasinanes of America, the dynamic Mr. Alvin Padilla. And, of course, the First Lady, Madam Marita Padilla. Bonita. And last but not the least, I'd like also to introduce to you Mr. Romulo Arenas, President, San Carlos City Association in Northern California, and First Lady LB. And the reigning queen, Mrs. Pangasinan, Faye Baronia. Please stand up, please. Thank you, and enjoy your meal and the dancing and the pageant tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.
I hardly know this beauty by my side. Never forget the way you look tonight. Never will forget
Deja que le cuento un poco. Yo sé que te ha gustado. Nacido tantas veces, no me quiero morir más. Sana tantas veras, me he cansado en llorar. Ahora estoy de vuelta, quiero vivir más. Unos nacen con todo, yo soy casi nada. Pero todos sepamos que sí que dice principio final caballero. Ay, a gozar la vida, que de pronto el tiempo te va. Disfruta que tienes, que de cuanto te vayas, tú le vas a dar. Ay, a gozar la vida, que de pronto el tiempo te va. Disfruta que quieres, que de cuanto te vayas, tú le vas a dar. Hay amigos más siempre, otros de derivan, pero los dos vivimos con una ruleta que no para más, caballero. Camina pa'lante, no tengas miedo, que nos critican, se critican menos. Y busca tu suerte, que nada es perdido, no mires atrás. Caballero, a gozar la vida, caballero, no le piensas más. Que vive lo que verás, caballero, a gozar, vivirás al final. Ay, a gozar la vida, que de pronto el tiempo te va. Disfruta que tienes, que de cuanto te vayas, tú le vas a dar. Ay, a gozar la vida, que de pronto el tiempo te va. Disfruta que tienes, que de cuanto te vayas, tú le vas a dar. Ay, a gozar la vida. Ay, a gozar la vida. La vida. And here's your salsa. Dos, tres, cuatro.
Okay, how's everyone tonight? I hope you're having fun, and I prepared a couple of songs for everybody. And I'd like to extend my congratulations to the winners of the Miss Ilocandia 2014, to Christelle, and Maria, and Santia. Congratulations, everybody. So I'm singing 3 songs for you tonight, and I hope you like it.
Okay. Go ahead.
You can sing along if you know the songs.
Big five.
Inseparable. That's how we'll always be. Inseparable. Just you and me. It's so wonderful to know that you'll always be around me. Incredible. What's you are to me? Incredible. You bring out the woman in me with your style of love. Inseparable, yes we are. Well, like a flower to a tree, like words to a melody of love. There's no way they're gonna break us. No words that can make us blue a thing. We're just inseparable. It's just how it is, inseparable. For the rest of my years, it's so wonderful to know that you'll always be around me. Thank you. So the next song that I'm gonna sing is a Tagalog song. I think you're kind of familiar with this. Kung tayo ay matanda na, sana'y
I
di
think-
tayo magbago. Kailanman, nasaan man ito ang pangarap ko. Makuha mo pa kaya ako'y hagan at yakapin. Hanggang sa pagtanda natin, nagtatanong lang sa'yo, ako pa kaya'y iibigin mo? Kahit maputi na ang buhok ko. You can dance if you want to. Pagdating ng araw, ang iyong buhok ay puputi na rin. Sabay tayong mangangarap ng nakaraan sa atin. Ang nakalipas ay ibabalik natin. Ipapaalala ko sa'yo ang aking pangako. kahit maputi na ang buhok ko. Ang nakalipas ay ibabalik natin. Ipapaalala ko sa'yo ang aking pangako ng pag-ibig ko'y laging sa'yo. Kahit maputi, kahit maputi, kahit maputi na ang buhok ko. Okay, thank you. Okay, the last song that I'm gonna sing is kind of upbeat. If you know the song, you can sing along or you can dance to it too. Explanations make no sense when every answer's wrong. You're fighting with lost confidence. All expectations come. The time has come to make a break. Move on, don't hesitate. Break out, don't stop to ask. And now you've got to break to make it last. You gotta find a way, say what you won't say. Break out. When situations never change,
so much, Camille, for that wonderful 3 songs. How I wish I could sing like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't. Sorry, I just have to admire you. Okay. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, no affair would be complete without the President taking the rostrum. And to give his message, we have U.S. INA President. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for President Alvin Padilla.
Thank you, Dr. Wee, Mr. Erne Glipay, thank you. Honored guest, Honorable Vice Consul Rochelle and Orenzi, Miss Camille, this was a nice song. Distinguished guest, our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Ernesto Aglipay, former President of the Filipino community and one of the incorporators of this USINA. Dr. Charito Wee, the President of Malasiki Association of California, and she's the Executive Chair of tonight's event. Grand Coronation of the first Miss Ilocandia. The President of different organizations who are here tonight, officers and members of the USINA, ladies and gentlemen, masanto siya labid si kayo namin, na imbag nga rabii tayo amin. Good evening to everyone. Tonight is a great night as you will witness the USINA Incorporated is celebrating a milestone in its history. Grand Coronation of the first Miss Ilocandia. The Royal Court takes the stage of the crowning of the Queen Crystal Francis Pasalo as Miss Ilocandia 2014-2016. First Princess Miss Namnama Santiakit Victuelles, and the second Princess Miss Liwliwa Maria Victoria de Guzman. I commend you all for your altruism, benevolence, and loyalty to our beloved organization through your involvement in raising funds for the organization. My family and I extend our congratulations and gratitude to Queen Crystal, the first Princess Santia, and the second Princess Maria Victoria. And the same words of gratitude and express to the people, and most especially the parents, that goes to Mr. and Mrs. Rad Pasalo, Mr. Romulo Victuales, and the parents, the guardians of friends of Miss Liwliwa Vicky de Guzman, who supported them in these fundraising campaigns. We are truly grateful for all your time, efforts, and financial assistance. We sincerely promise that the money you raise shall be spent to a noble cause and a worthwhile projects. On my first year of my 2-year term, I created a committee to formulate plans and open the door for the youth participation into the mainstream of the association. Committee studied the guidelines based on the existing parameters of Mrs. Ilocandia Queen Contest. Thank you to the Board of Directors and members for giving the green light to do it. The guidelines was approved and great package and fair, justifiable recommendations from the Committee of Better Incentives. I would like to thank Mrs. Padilla and Dr. Charito Wee in taking the lead working on this project. Queen Crystal will receive award and prizes, 1 free round-trip plane ticket to the Philippines, and a goodwill funds worth of 80,000 pesos to be donated and presented by the Queen in the name of the USINA Incorporated towards her own town, Pusurobio, Pangasinan, plus traveling expenses, allowance of $200. Congratulations, Queen Crystal. I'd like to thank the members of the search committee and managers for working hard in helping the candidates. Mr. Vic Hermoso, thank you very much. Edna Rujas and LC Gakusan, great job. And to the board of canvassers, acknowledge Mrs. Lourdes Obaldo, our treasurer, Vic Abraham, and Mr. Nelson Rabago. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for accepting the most difficult and sensitive task of handling the job. That's a teamwork. Job well done. And of course, the decoration committee. Special thanks to the chair and members, Mrs. Padilla, Amor Wee, Nelson Rabago, Vic Abraham, Michael Thomas, Nick Rivera, Mrs. Patty Barr, Bob Baltasar, Brenda Baltasar, and Dr. Charito Wee. Thank you so much for your hard work. Great job. And this is what you did this afternoon, almost the whole afternoon. And I salute you all for helping to make this event success. Lastly, my special thanks to the Executive Chair, Dr. Charito Wee, and Co-Executive Marita Padilla, First Lady, for overall doing almost everything for this event preparations. Also to Michael Thomas for the preparation of our souvenir program and overall help. You did in the preparation of this event, and to Mrs. Susan Arcilia, who does the most difficult and sensitive, stressful position to those sitting our guests. Make sure that you are seated to enjoy your dinner. And chair of the registration committee, that please don't feel bad if you are seated on the back wall, you are also a special guest. Don't think that if you are not seated on this line, you are not. All of you are going to be special tonight. So it's just a matter of sitting arrangement, but I want to make sure that you will enjoy the night tonight. My unending gratitude for rolling out this affair. So thank you very, very much. May God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. President, the coolest president. And to introduce to us our distinguished guests of honor and speaker, we have the founder, the father, and the president emeritus of USINA. Put your hands together again for Mr. Vic Hermoso.
Thank you, Dr. Yue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege again for me to introduce to you our Vice Consul who is going to give us a short message. I would like to introduce to you the new Vice Consul in San Francisco Consulate General. She is Miss Rachel Oranzi. Prior to joining the Department of Foreign Affairs in 2009, she worked at the IBM for 5 years. She is an alumni of the Ateneo de Manila University with a bachelor's degree, and at the Australian National University master's degree in public policy. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Vice Consul Oranzi.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the Philippine Consulate General, allow me to express our warmest appreciation to to the U.S. Ilocano National Association for inviting us to this event. We also congratulate the association for successfully organizing the Miss Ilocandia 2014. Events like this is very important. It keeps the Ilocano culture alive, and it ensures that future generations stay rooted in their heritage as young Filipino Americans. And I'm also glad to hear that from Mr. Ernesto Aglipay's earlier speech that the Ilocano community here remains involved and concerned about the leadership and political direction of the Philippines. And on that note, may I take this opportunity to inform everyone that registration for overseas voting is still open for the upcoming presidential elections in 2016. We at the Consulate General in San Francisco will be happy to welcome you if you want to come in and register as overseas voters. It's very easy. And once you register, we'll send your ballots to your houses by mail so that you can vote in the comfort of your homes. And I'd also like to congratulate the pageant winners. You now have the privilege of representing the Ilocano community here in the US. But with this comes a heavy responsibility. As role models of this community, may you continue to inspire the young people with grace, intelligence, compassion, and importantly, social concern. And have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you here with us tonight, Vice Consul. I was just speaking with her a moment ago because she is from she's from San Fernando, Pampanga, and I was speaking with her in Kapampangan. So I said, "Nakasalamat, Vice Consul." I told her, "You're so beautiful. Malagukan dili, Vice Consul," and she said,
Masanting.
"Thank you." Oh, salamat po. You're welcome, Vice Consul. I will. Once again, it is indeed my privilege and pleasure to be your host for tonight's grand coronation of the first Miss Ilocandia 2014. I know, just as I am, you are very excited and ecstatic to witness such a grandiose crowning of three beautiful ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, may I announce to you with a big round of applause and the sound of the drums, blaring of the trumpets fitting and proper to a royal court. Let us all welcome the grand entrance of Miss Ilocandia 2014, 2016, and her royal court. Second Princess and Miss Liwliwa or Miss Happiness, Miss Maria Victoria de Guzman with her escort, Mr. Kevin Lau. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Maria Victoria de Guzman, roots and praise back from up. Was born July 19, 1991, St. Luke's Hospital in Manila, Philippines. Her parents are Mr. Jerry de Guzman and Mrs. Cynthia de Guzman of Dagupan City. She has a sister, Sarah de Guzman. Vicky, as fondly called by family and friends, came to the United States in 2004. She studied and graduated at South San Francisco High School, California in 2009. After her graduation in high school, she attended the Providence Vocational School, where she got her certified nursing assistant license. Wanting to further her education, she enrolled at the South San Francisco State University, California, where she is now on her sophomore year in pharmacy degree. At present, she works part-time at the CBS Pharmacy in San Francisco, California. Even when she was still in the Philippines, Vicky really loves being in school and more so being with her friends. During her free time at school, she would enjoy spending time with her family and friends. What really catches and eats up so much of her time are videography, photography, and music, her hobbies. She is also into ice skating. No wonder why she looks so slim at age 23 years old. So amusing to know that she finds videography and photography thrilling, interesting, and exciting, a proof that she has keen eyes for beauty. Her desire to see the world is what drives her to one day experience what it is like to take a journey around the world. As a young lady with a soft heart, she likes to give back to the community. She may not have everything in life. She may have so much to give, but she has a heart that cares. But by donating $200 to the Red Cross for the victims of the Super Typhoon Yolanda, she knew she extended a piece of her heart to the needy people. A fun-loving, high-spirited young woman, Vicky would like to thank her family, friends, the USINA, and all those who supported her in her quest for the title Miss Ilocandia 2014. From the bottom of her heart, she was thankful for the opportunity given, the love she was shown, but more so, to God for all the bountiful blessings she has showered in life. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now call on the first princess and Miss Namnama or Miss Hope, Miss Cynthia Kate Rigunay Victuelles, escorted by Mr. Alex Dominguez. A round of applause, please.
Known to many as Kate and fondly called by family, relatives, and close friends as such, was born a Roman Catholic from parents Romy Victuelles of the Cupan City, Pangasinan, and Kirby Rigunay of the Ilocos Sur on February 12, 1998 in Saipan, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. At present, she lives with her parents at Cupertino, California. She graduated her elementary education at St. College of Ilocos Sur in Bantay, Ilocos Sur, Philippines. Had her junior high at Thornton Junior High School in Fremont, California. And in 2012 until this time, studies at the American High School, California. She is a young lady whose activities and interests include traveling, hiking, martial arts, and Aikido. At an early age, she is also into hackathons, also known as Hack Day, Hack Fest, or Code Fest. It is an event in which computer programmers and others involved in software development like graphic designers, interface designers, and project managers meet. Some of these hackathons she has participated in were HS Hacks, LA Hacks, Bronco Hacks, Debug DC Grotathon. Well, these all sound very interesting, but only those in the technology world will probably could. No wonder she's deeply engrossed in the computer language and technology because it is aptly to say like father, like daughter. Who, by the way, the father is a web designer and programmer in Cupertino, California. She may be into martial arts, a real top interest for a girl, but despite that, she also likes doing makeup for any occasion. On the softer side of Kate, she likes spending time with her sister. When she was in her junior high, she attended a World Leadership Conference, was a member of the engineering club, participated in the FRC Robotics or the first robotics competition, an international high school robotics competition that gives students real-world engineering experience, and also the Upmaking Club member. Not only was she a computer savvy and techie, but she also an altar server at the St. Joseph Church, Cupertino. As an avid freestyle ice skater, Kate is presumed and assumed to have the fluidity and grace of a body movement. With a very typical morena complexion, Kate, a sweet, innocent girl, does not understand the AI or artificial intelligence language, but also is fluent in English, Tagalog, and Ilocano. Looking at the future Steve Jobs, Cynthia Kate Victuelles wants to be a future computer engineer who someday would use the cyber brain, techie skills, and computer expertise to better the world we all lived in.
Thank you, Kate Victuelles. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now welcome the grand entrance of Her Royal Highness with her entourage making the way. Introduction fitting for a queen is first done by two of her flower girls, Rain Arenas Padilla and Caitlin Jean Almiron de Lancey. For the Queen's Sash, let's welcome Timothy Sheridan, followed by the scepter bearer, Thomas Sheridan, and the Cape Crown bearer, Russell Arenas Padilla. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Her Majesty the Queen, Cristel Frances Paragas Pasalo, Miss Ilocandia 2014-2016, with her escort, Mr. Richard de Guzman.
Born on January 30, 1988 in Quezon City, Philippines, Cristel Frances Pasalo is the second of three daughters to parents Rodrigo Jasmine Pasalo and Araceli Paragas Pasalo, who were both born and raised in Palak-Palak, Pasarubio, Pangasinan. Only aged 3 years old, Cristel came to the United States and has visited the Philippines 3 times since. Cristel attended grade school in Daly City, California, and eventually graduated from the University of San Francisco, where she earned her Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She now works as a neonatal intensive care unit nurse in San Francisco's California Pacific Medical Center, whereas one finds her job so enjoyable. Currently, she lives in South San Francisco, California. Secret of her very good positive attitude in life is her enjoyment spending her free time doing her hobbies that include yoga, hiking, and dancing 3 different dance genres, the hip-hop, Hawaiian, and the more eclectic jazz, a dance that is inspired by ballet, disco, and hip-hop. But this is not all, however. She also finds it very interesting not only practicing but also mastering the ballet and ballroom dancing. In addition to this, she further finds delight in watching live shows, eating in new places, and trying new things. Her amiable and friendly personality could be attributed to her deep involvement in the ministries and projects of the youth and young adults of Grace United Methodist Church in San Francisco, where she and her family regularly attend and participate in its services, living up to the church belief of putting faith and love into action. Crystal loves to spend time with family, friends, and loved ones while approaching life with positivity, joy, and laughter. After being interested in the U.S. Ilocano National Association's organization and its goal to fundraise for charitable projects in the Philippines, Crystal knew then that joining the Miss Ilocandia search will be her significant way of reaching out to people, especially to the people of her town in Paso Review. Winning the most coveted title of Miss Ilocandia 2014 and being given the honor and the opportunity to be crowned as the first queen has taught her many things in life. Having participated in the search with a great and noble cause was very fulfilling for Crystal. Having won it was even more gratifying. Crystal believes that she won the Miss Ilocandia 2014 because it was meant to be. She was destined to become this year's queen because at the back of her mind, she has a purpose. She knew very well that with her crown comes bigger responsibility, responsibility she's willing to embrace. Being the first Miss Ilocandia, she knew in her heart that she would be the link of the past and the future for both Mrs. and Miss Ilocandia. Thank you.
So, we now proceed to the presentation of bouquets to the royal court. And to give the bouquet to the second princess and Miss Liuliwa Maria Victoria de Guzman, may I call in Mrs. Marilo Ancheta, who herself was Mrs. Namnama 2010, to be escorted by our very own handsome, good-looking U.S. INA Executive Auditor, Mr. Jose Joe Garrido. Thank you, Mr. Garrido and Mrs. Ancheta. To do us the honors of giving the bouquet for the first princess and Miss Namnama Santiago Victuelles are her parents, Mr. Romy and Mrs. Anya Victuelles. Please, a big round of applause for the husband and wife. Thank you, Romy and Anya. Coming up next is the coronation of the royal court. The second princess and Miss Liuliwa will be crowned by the first Mrs. Ilocandia 1993-1994, Mrs. Gloria Bautista, to be escorted by the President of the Filipino Community of Watsonville, Mr. Rial Reyes. Rial and Miss Bautista, the first Mrs. Ilocandia. Don't you think she looks stunning despite the many years that she's been crowned? And to crown the first princess, Miss Namnama is the just recently crowned Miss Pangasinan 2014-2016, Miss Raven Castayin Mapanaw, to be escorted by the chair, Board of Directors of United Pangasinanes of America Incorporated, Mr. Mario Sandanya Panuringan. My bossing, Kuya Mario. And we have now come to the very highlight of tonight's occasion, the crowning of Her Majesty Queen Cristel I. May I call in Mrs. Regine de Guzman, Senior Associate Director, Financial Aid Operations, University of San Francisco, to pin the sash on Her Majesty the Queen. She will be escorted by Dr. Joaquin Gonzalez, Professor of Politics at the Golden Gate University and University of San Francisco. Thank you, Ms. de Guzman and Dr. Gonzalez. The crowning of Queen Cristel is to be done by the Honorable Vice Consul Oronce. That's the shortest thing I can say. To be escorted by Vice Consul is the Philippine Consulate General, San Francisco, to be escorted by U.S. INA President Mr. Alvin Padilla. We have the cape over there. Vice Consul will also be doing that with the President. Let's all stand, ladies and gentlemen, for the crowning of the Queen. Clap your hands, please, ladies and gentlemen. Vice Consul Rachel Ann L. Oronce, and Mr. President Alvin Padilla. Thank you so much. The scepter is to be presented to Her Majesty by the Director of Management and Operations of Manila Mail Publications of the Media, Mrs. Edwina Anyag, to be escorted by Dr. Pons Materum, Doctor of Dental Medicine, member, Dental Society of Norcal. Dr. Materum, Engineer Rodrigo and Mrs. Arcele Pasalo will present the bouquet to their daughter, Queen. Mr. and Mrs. Pasalo. Let's now proceed to the presentation of trophies. And to start off, may I call in Mrs. Alicia Borge, past President US INA, to be escorted by the better half US INA Incorporated Comelec Vice Chair, Mr. Willie Borge, to present the trophy to Miss Liuliwa Second Princess Maria Victoria. And Mrs. Borge. To present the trophy for Miss Namnama First Princess Kate is Miss Edna Rojas, Mrs. Pangasinan 2003-2005, United Pangasinanis of America Incorporated Assistant Auditor, Member, Board of Directors, US INA Incorporated, and Controller, Malasiki Association of California, to be escorted by Mr. Sosimo de la Cuesta, President, Sarat Association of Northern California. Ms. Rojas and Mr. De La Cuesta. The trophy for Her Majesty the Queen, may I call in the First Lady of USINA Incorporated, who is my executive co-chair, Ms. Ilocandia, member, Board of Directors, USINA Incorporated, and Mrs. Pangasinan, 1997-1999, and escorted by Mr. Richard Gallardo, President, Candonians of Southern California. Nandiyan na yung isang tabi mo.
Part of the prize of winning the title, Miss Ilocandia 2014-2016 includes an incentive package, one of which is the goodwill funds amounting to 80,000 pesos given to an identified project of Queen Crystal I in her hometown, Pasarobio, Pangasinan. To present this incentive award are the Executive Chair, Ms. Ilocandia 2014, Board Secretary, UPAI, Corresponding Secretary, USINA Inc., and President Malasiki Association of California, Dr. Charito Rojas Hui, and the USINA Inc. President, Mr. Alvin Padilla. Mr. President, another part of that incentive package is a round-trip ticket to the Philippines, plus pocket money for the Queen to be awarded by the former President of USINA Inc., Ms. Elsie Gacusan, and Mr. Hermoso, USINA Inc. founder and President Emeritus. Elsie Gacusan and Mr. Hermoso, two pillars of the United States Ilocano National Association. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the 2014-2016 Miss Ilocandia and her royal court, Queen Crystal I, First Princess and Miss Namnamak Santia Kate Victuelles, and Second Princess and Miss Liuliwa Maria Victoria de Guzman. One big round of applause. I want to hear that. There you go. Okay, thank you so much. To serenade the royal court, we have two dashing gentlemen. Take note, dashing gentlemen. The Queen's dad, Engineer Rodrigo Pasalo, and Phil-Am tenor and a former member of the UP Madrigal Singers, Enrico Saboren. But first, to sing for us
is the father of the Queen, Engineer Rodrigo Pasalo, to be followed by Mr. Sabore.
You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You have grown so much now, and I'm proud of who you are.
Yeah. Woohoo.
You are so beautiful. Thank you. To me, you are so beautiful. To me, can't you see? Thank you. This is the moment. This is the night. You send your doubts and demons out of sight. Every endeavor you have me ever coming into play. It's here and now tonight. This is your moment. This is your time. When the momentum and the moment are in rhyme, give you this moment, this precious chance to gather up your past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when all you've done, all of the dreaming, scheming and screaming become one. This is the night See it sparkle and shine when all you dream of becomes true. All the years you face the world alone, and now the time has come to prove to them you made it on your own. This is the moment, this is the night, when all this business even as fears become one. You won't look down, you will not fall. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them all. This is the moment, damn all the odds. This night or never, you'll sit forever with the gods. When you look back, you will always recall, moment by moment, this was the moment, the greatest moment of them all. Thank you.
See what a father can do for his love to a daughter. Crystal, you should be happy you have dad like him. He did everything. He had to practice 1 year for this one. No, just joking. Your dad is a good singer.
I would like to dedicate this song to Her Majesty, Crystal Francis, and the beautiful princesses, Thea Kate, Victuelles, and Maria. I'll sing 2 songs from the Broadway, Carousel and West Side Story. If you love me, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, Thank you. I'll sing from West Side Story. Tonight won't be just any night. Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us, stars will stop where they are. Today, the minutes seem like hours, the hours go so slowly, and still the sky is light. Oh, moon, grow bright and make this endless day, endless night. Tonight, I'll see my love tonight. Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, the world is wild and bright, going mad, shooting sparks into space. Today the world is just an address, a place for me to live in, no better than all right. For here you are, and what was just the world is a star tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pasalo, Engineer Pasalo, and Mr. Saboren. I know that the next couple of years would be very important for Queen Cristel as she fulfills her duties as ambassadress of goodwill for all the 18 provinces of the association, and as the first Miss Ilocandia, who shall become the bridge for the coming in of the younger generation into the fold of USINA. Let us all listen to the message of Her Majesty Queen Cristel I. Please give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Crystal Pasalo, and I am honored to be the U.S. Ilocano National Association's very first Miss Ilocandia Queen. I found out about the Miss Ilocandia search from a fellow longtime church member, my uncle, Mr. Vic Hermoso. He told me about the opportunity to raise money for a charitable project of my choice in the Philippines, and interested in the cause, I was convinced to join. I am so glad I did, because it has been an enjoyable stretch of months to have met the USINA members and to participate in a few of their events. Little did I know that I would eventually be here before you wearing the winning crown. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every person that has supported me throughout this entire process. My manager, my parents and sisters, relatives, loved ones, friends, and even acquaintances that had only heard about the cause and were still eager to help. I wouldn't be here without your diligent support, and to all of you I extend my deepest gratitude. Choosing where to donate the funds was actually not as difficult as I had anticipated. As a newborn ICU RN, I see babies every day, and I like to imagine their futures and the potential they have. I believe in the importance of a well-established community and its ability to offer children ample opportunities to grow and eventually run our cities. Since my parents were born and raised in Palak-Palak, Posorobio, Pangasinan, I'd like to donate the raised funds to Palak-Palak Elementary School. I am confident that the donation will aid in their education and development into valuable members of the community. As the first Miss Ilocandia Queen, I hope to offer my services and commitment to the organization's outreach projects during my reign. Thank you all again for coming to this event to support the USINA, these beautiful ladies, and myself, and I hope you all let loose and enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Majesty, Queen Christelle. May we now therefore request the Royal Court to go around for the traditional royal walk to be followed by the royal dance. This symbolizes your formal introduction to the public.
Naraniyak kabulan Ononoy ko indengan Daitanas nagasilaw mo
Okay, may I request the parents of the royal court to please join in? Managers, parents.
Langit ko indengaw To'y nasikngap palubong ko Ingkakat silawan Tapdadyak bayawawan Knowing ka ng lipatin Karing kaniyak na umagin Samsam bitek nagpatayo Bulan kay dakudem Nang laylay kuyayat ko Ingkakading palambangin Ononoy ko darasem na ikete Naraniyak kabulan Ononoy ko indengaw Daitanas nagasilaw mo Ingkakadi paidaw Naraniyak kabulan Sangsangit ko indengaw To'y nasip nga dalubong ko Ingkakat silawan Silawan, tapdudyak mayawawan. Knowing ka nalipat din, narim kaniyak na umagin. Samsam bidag di padayo, bulan kedak nunel. Nang laylay tuyayat ko, hingga kadin panas bagay. Nunoy ko darasin, kain keteng. Knowing ka nalipat din, narim kaniyak na umagin. Samsam bidag di padayo, bulan kedak nunel.
All officers, go ahead.
Para bagay, noy ko darasin na iketeng. Tonaranyak abulan,
Officers,
sangsagit
join.
tenga. Day dadas lagasilaw mo, hingga ka di maidaw. Bulan sangsagit ko indengaw. To'y nasit nga dalubong ko, hinggagat silawan, tatudyak mayawawan. Knowing ka nang lipatin, narin kang hiyak na umagin. Samsam idag di padayo, bulan kedak nunel. Nang laylay tuyayat ko, hingga panas bagay. Nonoy ko darasin na iketeng. Nonoy ko darasin na iketeng. Nonoy ko darasin na iketeng.
Dalawa, magpapasayaw ako. Pasayaw na ako. Okay, that's the recessional of the royal court. May we have...
I just want to take the opportunity to awards this to the founder and incorporator of this organization, which is a long Joe for all the members. I would like to call Mr. Vic Hermoso. I would like to present to Mr. Vic Hermoso from the USINA, presented to Mr. Vic Hermoso, Incorporator, in appreciation of your dedicated and loyal support with the USINA, signed by the President.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a surprise. But as I say, my commitment to the growth of this organization is always there. The only thing that will maybe stop me is when my last breath comes. But hopefully, the good Lord will always be with me and be with us with the U.S. Ilocano Association for life. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I appreciate it with all my heart and with all my soul. Thank you.
I have one more plaque to be awards in appreciation also to our one of the incorporators, which is also long overdue to recognize. I would like to call Mr. Enia Glipay, incorporator, in appreciation of your dedicated and loyal support with the USINA and the legacy also that you did on the early days of USINA. Really appreciate it. You're here again, and thank you for your services tonight.
Po Presidente, agyaman akunay, iti panangtid mo kanyak da ito'y agundaway. Kay sapay kuma, ta sika, ken ni Bakı mo, ken ni Dr. Awe, ken ni Elsie, ken ni Lakayna. Ke ma-recognize da. Iti tinawen nga panagpesta, wano okasyon ti USA na ingana ti sibibek tayo. Thank you, Apo, Presidente. Diyos tangina.
You're very welcome.
To our special guest tonight, friends, Cambogians, ladies and gentlemen, I love my job because all I have to say is thank you to everybody. I just hope that, well, it seems like everybody had a good time. Are you? Can I hear you say yes? Did you have a good time? Can be louder than that, okay? Let me try one more time. Did you have a good time?
Yeah!
All right, I'm all for that. Well, anyway, everything that I wanted to say for tonight has been said earlier, and the goals and dreams of our very good organization has been discussed, and a lot of those has been achieved. So there isn't much to say except enjoy the rest of the evening. Nice to see all of you guys having a good time, and we'll continue our good time all through the evening. And thank you again, because without you, your support, your generosity, we won't be here and we won't be successful. Good night, everybody. Let's enjoy the rest of the evening, okay? We love you.
May I request one from Watsonville to come draw? Miss Rigor. It says consolation prize. It's $1,000 to be given in 10 years for Gibbs. Thank you so much, Ms. Rigor, and thank you for coming over. The winner, Mr. President, magkano ba to? 20 years to give, $1 per year, so $20, okay? The winner for a $20 is Lisel Gallinero of 522 Smith Avenue. A ballot for Cynthia Kate Rigunay Victuelles. Huh? Okay, so another $20, right? The next winner is Wilson Kung of BART. This is ballot of Cristel Pasalo. I think this is from Bay Area Rapid Transit. From Engineer Pasalo. Okay, the last one, the last $20. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Edsburg. Yeah, Watsonville. Okay, salamat po. Another $20. This is a ballot for Cynthia Kate again. M. Aquino of 165 Horizon Circle, Carroll Stream, Illinois. Third prize. Okay, third prize worth $100. Ayan, nako. Just slide. There you go. Naku, natuto rin sila. Thank you, ma'am. Ballot for Cristel Pasalo. It's Cristel Pasalo. Naku ha, K Pasalo. Sabi ko na eh. There you go. And then the next one is $300. Okay, then the ballot is for Maria Victoria de Guzman. The name is Cynthia D. Cynthia D, Lady D. Oh, there you go. Woohoo! There. Yan. Yan. Yes. Cynthia, right? Yes. Thank you. Okay. And the grand prize of $500. The ballot is for Cynthia Kate Rigunay Victuelles. The name is Marina
Posyo? Sige. Well. Okay. 500 ayaw mo?